Charles. It's the kingdom of the empty skull, and to discuss it, we're here outside Skull and Bones.
Are you sure of that, Jason?
I mean, isn't it?
Yes, it is.
Yeah. Because this is your. You got to tell everybody where we are. Charles.
All right, so we're in New Haven. I left New Haven in 1978. My parents actually met here in 1950.
But not just New Haven. This is Yale.
We're here at Yale. We're going to show all. Yale's a very interesting campus. It has lots of different architectural styles, and some criticize it for the various styles as opposed to having a more uniform style like Harvard. But I kind of find it interesting and intriguing. I don't know what's going on here at Skull and Bones, but there's a big.
Tell me about it.
Yeah, there's a big.
Nobody knows.
But there appears to be a big trash thing here. Maybe we'll walk over there and see what.
Is that Geronimo in there? Will they let us in?
No.
Are you guys bonesmen?
No, absolutely. No, they're not. You have to be college age. But
They're not bonesmen.
they might have been in a past life. But it appears that they're getting rid of. I mean, this is what they need to do in the Joe Biden White House. They need to throw the trash that is currently in the Joe Biden White House onto the ash heap, the dung heap of history. Now, I'm surprised. It's surprising to me. Ordinarily, look over here. When I was here at Yale, it was pretty well landscaped. I believe there's a substantial endowment for Skull and Bones and these other secret societies, but this is like a wreck. So maybe they're doing.
We need Manny Grossman to properly tell us. Like, I mean, I don't know, but this looks kind of like dead grass.
Obviously, they're doing construction underneath, perhaps, and. If you go over this, let's walk this way because it's.
But before we leave, I mean, what the hell is this? It looks like a tomb. It's even called the tomb, isn't it?
Well, I was not a member of Skull and Bones, so I don't know what's in there. But it looks to me like it goes pretty far back there. It's not. I hadn't realized that there was another part back there.
Let's check it out.
We can't go in there. But
it's just sidewalk here.
Yeah.
We're not allowed to walk on the sidewalk?
We're allowed to walk on the sidewalk. We just can't go in there, and that's security over there.
That's right.
Gotta fix the sidewalk.
Yeah.
What did you say about the
fix the sidewalk. He definitely needs to fix the sidewalk. But you see, it's interesting.
Sidewalk, isn't it?
Yeah. Do you see that? That window there? It appears to go through the building.
It does.
And I do know that I don't think we should go in there. You guys are going to come back and forth.
But isn't that sidewalk? Looks like it.
Okay, well, let's go. If they stop us, they'll stop us.
Right.
But we can't go to the
We
building.
won't enter the building.
Yeah.
We'll just walk outside. There's no fence here that told us not to come in, but I mean, it looks like a castle to me.
Well, this is actually, it says the McNeil Lecture Hall and Sculpture Garden.
Is that like the McNeil Lair News Hour?
I don't know.
Sculpture Garden seems locked.
No, it's definitely going to be locked. We can't go into any of the school buildings. You have to be fully vaccinated, and they're hypersensitive about security. But what's interesting, I'm not going to say who it was, but one of my friends in college was in Skull and Bones, more than one, but one was in Skull and Bones, and there's a famous story. They're in there, and I think they meet once or twice a week, and interestingly enough, there's no booze allowed, which I had sort of assumed back in college days that this would be an excuse to carouse, and they tell their life stories, and who knows what they do. But they're sitting there in this ultra hyper secret room inside that tomb, and they hear somebody. And it's some bum who somehow figured out how to get in there and stumbles into the interior of Skull and Bones.
Unbelievable.
Yeah.
I would like to interview that bum. All right, well, so let's carry on with a little tour of Yale. By the way, why did we decide to come here today, other than the fact that it's a beautiful day and a nice idea for a Sunday excursion?
Well, the wonderful work of the art department, Joe Biden's Empty Skull.
Oh, actually, yeah.
Delaware Joe.
But what does that have to do with Yale?
I think what we were doing, Jason, from memory, is we were looking for movies that had anything to do with New Haven and Yale, and when you punch into Google, as I did, up pumps, number one is this movie, which maybe is set partially in New Haven, or
what it had to do with Yale, that Indiana Jones movie. But you know what, actually, Charles, I had some hidden gems in the image. I don't know if you can see, but you know, of course, we have the empty skull himself, President Dumb Joe. And then he's flanked by the smartest crackhead that he knows riding the motorcycle. We've got the golden statue of Obama. And I don't know if this is the detail that's pretty hidden, but it's Bill Clinton running away.
He's always running
Yeah.
away to the extent
He's
he
running
can.
away. And then we've got Hillary hanging out down there with Dopey Millie
That's good.
wearing the hat.
Is
And
Millie wearing lipstick?
probably, I don't know. Look it, is what he likes to say.
So look at this. This is Brantford Tower here, and some point to it as being a beautiful architectural gem.
yeah, it
Uh,
is.
I believe that most of these Gothic-style buildings were put up around 1930, so they're not as ancient as you would think, but it's really quite beautiful in here. We go over here.
Well, can we walk into this courtyard?
Yeah, we can't walk into we can walk through it and back,
Yeah.
sure. But back in the day, we had a game that united everybody called bladderball. And if you just pause for a second, you see the old campus over there. We would gather everybody into the old campus, and there was this gigantic ball, huge ball that you'd knock it up in the air.
Did you have to drink a lot before you played bladder ball?
Pretty much. But you would hit this thing up in the air, and the goal was to bounce it over the fence and have your team bring the ball to your residential college. So it's just a controlled riot, basically. So one year, the team from Jonathan Edwards, this college over here, came up with a novel way to pierce the bladder ball on the edge there, so it was easier. You know, if it's going to big thing bounce in the air, it's much harder to get it anywhere than if you take all the air out of it and then you just run with the shell.
Huh.
So they ran with the shell, went in here, and the powers that be said, that's bullshit, you can't do that. And for every year thereafter, the uniform crowd chant was JE sucks, JE sucks, JE sucks. So then another time, if you look here, I forget which college it was, but just for the sake of the play, we'll say that here you have Brantford College, and here you have JE. So a team, I forget which college it was, but a team, let's say from Brantford, lit on the idea of calling the New Haven Yale police, like the day before the bladderball game, you know, for, I don't know, 50 times, saying,
Why?
help, we're locked in, we can't get out of JE. And the campus cops would come and it would be open. They did this like 50 times.
Cops must get pissed.
And then at about 7 o'clock in the morning or 6:30 in the morning, they did lock the Brantford people
And
did,
the cops would no
and
longer
worse,
answer.
and worse. Where they got thrown out of school temporarily is I forget if it was JE or Brantford, which college it was, but the opposing team went to the top of the dining room, knocked open a window, and then put this acid, it wouldn't kill you, but it smells,
Wow.
into the dining room. So everybody tried to get out of the college and they couldn't get out.
This sounds like a terrorist attack.
It wasn't really a terrorist attack, but
Well, it's just poison gas and you're locked
it was
in.
it was in
Not
the
a big deal.
nature of a prank. But if we keep walking,
Wow.
you can see that, you know, the campus itself. They then stopped bladderball. It got too violent, and they cut that out.
Yeah, it's chemical warfare. That's where they draw the line.
No, I remember. I think my freshman year, and we'll see the old campus. People went the old campus, and it was, I forget what night it was. It was, what's the night in England where they had all the mayhem?
Sir Lancelot?
No, it's in October, I think. I forget. It's when, might be around October 13th or something, but there's some night, and it was another day to let steam off. So people were throwing shit out the window. Somebody threw a couch through a window.
Those are
then
the
lit
nights
it,
that go neat.
then lit the thing on fire. So they made a decision. We better tamp this crap down.
Yeah. I thought everyone here is supposed to be smart.
Well, to get in, you have to be accomplished in school, or accomplished as an athlete, or accomplished in some other way. It's fiercely competitive still to get in, even more so than when I went.
It's beautiful here, I have to say, and it's a beautiful day. We've been very lucky with the weather, and we have a new gimbal today, Charles, so I don't know if people will notice perhaps a little kaizen with the steadiness of the camera movements, but there it is.
Yeah. Now, so I'll show you another thing. I think it's this way. I was also a member of a club called the Fence Club, which was not for fencing.
Selling stolen goods.
I have the tie, actually. I've worn it, the black tie with a fence on it, the gold fences. And I think it's over here. Here you see a man you know.
Who?
David Geffen.
Oh, yeah.
The David
I don't know him, really.
But you know of him, the David
Right.
Geffen School of Drama. Yeah.
I met.
Yeah, that
Katzenberg.
that used to be the fence club right there. Let's walk up to it. And it was the fence club. The way Yale worked is you had the senior societies, which obviously only a senior could be in, and then you had a very limited number of other clubs. And this fence club was the club that most of the preppies wanted to join, and it had all kinds of benefits, cheap booze, cheap food, lots of parties. It's no longer a club. But when I was there, one of my roommates was a bit wild, and I think the pool table, from memory, used to be where those 3 windows are above the door.
Yeah.
Either there or there, I forget which. And we would sit here, let's see what they call this.
220 York Street. I was going to say, this reminds me of Cambridge when I went with David Hawkins.
Oh, this says theater studies. This is nothing.
Yeah, and that thing over there says stage entrance.
Right, so they've changed it around. This used to be the fence club, and so this guy was getting drunker and drunker. I won't say his name, but you hear that?
Howling.
Yeah. He decided, because he missed a shot, that what he wanted to do is take one of the balls, a cue ball, and throw it through those windows. So he threw it down this way to go chase the balls back, and then he would throw another one and another one. Nutcase. The crazy things you do in college. I didn't do that.
Certainly not.
But yeah, so around here, around the stage set, during the day, Yale is certainly very nice. But this kind of architecture was certainly not prevalent in America in 1930. I mean, this is more like
England.
ancient England,
Yeah.
12, 13, 1400. But one of the argument to go to Yale when I went was that, unlike Harvard, it had excellent professors, but you would actually be taught by them. At Harvard, you were taught by graduate students principally. And so that was the argument to come here. The choice between this place and between New Haven and Cambridge and Boston is not close, right?
What do you mean?
Well, I mean, New Haven doesn't have anywhere near the resources that Cambridge and Boston have.
Got it.
And Harvard University has Yale's endowment is not small. I think last I checked, it was $20 or $25 billion.
Wow.
And Harvard's is more like 40 to 50.
That's just crazy. Why are these things tax exempt?
Well, first of all, each of the schools were created prior to there being an income tax. So the income tax didn't come in until 19-something. Yale was created in 1701, Harvard in technically they say 1636, but it wasn't really voted in until 1650 odd. And we know this because there are the records of the General Court, which is the oldest governmental institution in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. And in my genealogical research, a number of my ancestors were on that court. And so you can look at the proceedings and you can see when these places were actually founded. And to me, if you're going to be an educational institution, you ought to try to get your facts straight. So
We're not actually educating people to facts, Charles. Who told you that?
Well, but back then, the idea of an educational institution was principally to train ministers, at least of these. And it was not to train ministers of all faiths. It was to train Protestant ministers. And so Harvard's motto was truth. There is truth, veritas.
It says even veritas on their thing.
Yeah, that's their
crest or whatever.
Slogan or whatever. Their motto. And the Yale team broke with the Harvard team and created light and truth. Looks at veritas. And so it was formed later in 1701 in theory. I forget if this used to be J Press, it's now a bookstore, or if the one on the corner used to be J Press.
Gray Matter books.
Yeah. Used in where? It would appear to be open.
Why do they have a television in the bookstore?
I don't know. They're hedging their bets, Jason.
It's very odd.
This is somebody like me with a lot of books, and you want to get rid of them eventually, and you set up a bookstore.
Oh, masks required. Thanks, Delta variant. That's funny that it says that.
Thanks, Obama.
You're right. Thanking the Delta variant for requiring masks.
So we've got a lot to cover, but why don't we go across the street and up, and I'll show you a different part of Yale, which is semi-modern.
So, Charles, this is one of these towns that without Yale, there's no town here.
Yale is a heavy contributor and burden actually on the town as well. I mean, I don't know what the deal is with property taxes, whether the
Oh, right.
Yale for a while was not paying any property taxes because it's tax exempt, but then they cut a deal with the city. To your right, you have somebody who does not look to be, maybe he is a Yale professor, but
He has not cut a deal with the city.
yet.
He's like, I tell you what, I won't take a dump on the sidewalk.
On second thought, I already did.
Yeah,
I won't
deal's
take
off.
another one because I just took a big one. Yeah. So this is really the used to be where the main commercial shops around Yale were, and in that direction, sort of all the way down, is the guts of the campus. There are satellite places we're going to go see in a bit. Up that way.
Smells like guy smells worse than in New York City.
I know. Yeah. We can't go
It's
yet.
an Ivy League stench.
That's like mega stench.
Unbelievable.
I think that's like chimpanzee ass stench.
That can't be good for you. I mean,
Well,
that guy
probably
needs a mask over his whole entire body.
Probably frightens the COVID away. So
Exactly. That guy's got the cure in his underpants.
he's got, yeah. Here's the thing: leprosy cures COVID. But when I was here, and I was here from '74 to '78, my brother '76 to '80. There were no chain shops per se. There was J. Press, as I
Right.
mentioned, but there were a lot of, local New Haven mom and pop style family shops of different kinds. There were a lot of bookstores, a lot of Yale sweatshirts and hats and things like that. But certainly there wasn't a J. Crew when I was around here. And the principal place that you would get everything we're walking up on here it used to be called the Yale Co-op, and it was actually a co-op where you would buy your stuff there, and then at the end of every school year you get a check, some percentage of the profits back to you.
Wow.
And it was where I bought most of my books.
I bet you they got rid of that.
It's now it was operated by Barnes and Noble. You see the Yale bookstore there? That's what I'm talking about.
Oh yeah, I do see that.
And it's now, it's now highly commercialized. I don't
Right.
think it is at all the old style thing. But in the old days, you could get clothes, you could get typewriters, you could get, books, supplies, anything you needed. Family owned and operated since 1975. This place went in the end of my freshman year. This is actually where people are wondering. This is where I got my Yale hat that I used to wear.
That
But
same one that you still have?
well, I have it, but
I think you should get a new one now.
it's getting pretty dirty.
Yeah. Why don't you go in there and buy a hat?
Do you want one?
I don't want one, no.
Well, I can
Thank
ask.
you for offering.
Can I?
I mean,
I'll
only if
leave
you
you-
want one.
Well, I'll come. No, I
We'll
don't
come
want.
back later. Don't worry
Yeah,
about it. The bulldog is the mascot. Yeah.
yeah. Handsome Dan.
That's the dog's name.
Yeah. When I was a little kid, my parents took a picture. They had a Yale trash can, like old-fashioned Yale thing. They took a
Yeah, it's
picture of
called
me
George Bush.
standing up in my diaper, like age 2 or something, in a Yale trash can. That picture exists in our family archive somewhere.
Wow. People will be scouring the internet for that.
It's not on the internet. This certainly wasn't here in
Is this
1974.
the Apple store?
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. I
You
mean,
think they
that's-
make any money off this university?
What do you think these giant reflectors are for? I guess just to showcase the phone.
Got no clue.
I bet you that's designed to do something. I mean, look at how cool that building looks.
Don't know. So this is the entrance to the old Yale Coop, and we're going to go down that way.
Yeah, let's do it.
And this takes you, when I was here, there were two modern colleges called Ezra Stiles. Each one of these represents the insignia of the residential colleges. There used to be 12. Mine is Timothy Dwight. My father's was Saybrook. He also was in Timothy Dwight, and I was, my senior year, I think I was on the same floor, possibly in the same room that my dad had freshman
Wow.
year.
That's real
Old
Yale
school.
legacy.
Yeah. And as I mentioned, my mom actually got a bachelor's of music here and a master's.
Huh. What's this one? With the
I
SS
just don't
lightning
know.
bolts?
I have no clue. I'm a horrible tour guide. But these are the modern colleges, residential colleges, which I find to be pathetically ugly.
This was established in 2019, Charles. I don't think they had Indian street food when you were here.
No.
I also
sure.
don't understand why street food is a...
Yeah, I know.
It's like cooking in the
I've
street.
been on Indian streets, and I wouldn't be
Right.
eating street food there. Yeah, so here's Ezra Stiles. He was the president of Yale long ago. And you see here, this is the insignia for this residential college. So the way it works is you get into Yale, unlike, I don't know how it is at Oxford and Cambridge now, but you get into Yale, and unless you have a family connection and you want to be in one of these colleges, doesn't mean you get it, but you can make a request if you have a family connection. You are assigned to one of the 12 residential colleges.
How do they decide? Just arbitrarily?
Well, they do put some thought into it. They have the different roommates. They know they have the applications. They try to blend interests and talents and backgrounds to make
Really?
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
Wow.
And that was Stiles, and I think this is Morse. And for my 10th reunion, I came and I had to sleep in one of these dorms. And
Doesn't sound like you enjoyed it.
no.
Why not?
And well, let's walk this way. This is a place. This is the Payne Whitney Gymnasium over here. This is a very famous old gym filled. That building is filled with squash courts and basketball courts and
The pain-inducing gymnasium.
and a swimming pool, big swimming pool, and large arenas for all kinds of events. That was the hub.
Doesn't this feel southwestern, how they've constructed
Yeah,
this?
I don't understand the decision to do this. I mean, maybe they were all on mushrooms when they came up with this brilliant design. But to me, it looks like, we took the leftovers from a construction site, threw it all together in a blender, and then put these buildings up.
Yeah, maybe it was an inexpensive way to construct it or something.
Maybe the guy who did it was from New Mexico. Let's go.
Fred Flintstone.
The Barney Rubble College.
Yeah,
That's really what it looks like to me.
it does. It's okay.
But in the winter, this walk is brutal typically because you get a lot of wind and it's freezing and you're not going to pick the snow and the slush up off the ground, so you're going to get all wet. Your feet are, that is to say. But this is certainly
Look, boxing or something.
not what you'd expect for inner city New Haven, right? I mean, you look at this and you say, inner city New Haven's like right over there, Jason, to your left. Maybe 500 feet. But this is where, and I got to Yale, I wasn't recruited for any team, and I had spent much of my high school career playing tennis,
Oh, right.
and to a lesser extent, skiing. And so I got here and I said, you know what, enough of this practicing 3-4 hours a day, let's do something else. So I got involved in Yale Political Union and other things.
Tennis.
Dropped tennis, but my roommates sophomore year were all into squash. And so I picked it up. And squash, I don't know if you ever played.
I thought it ruins your tennis game.
Well, it's not necessarily, but it's a challenge. It's not the same motion. So tennis, you're like this. Squash, you're like this, Jason. You're
Yeah.
flicking, and it's just quite a different way to do it. And over time, when I was here, one of the top teams that Yale had was the squash team. It was nationally, internationally known. So I had a guy, one roommate was number 1 in his class, number 1 on the team. One was number 8. One was number 9. One was number 6, and I was 0. So I mean, never played squash. So I made it as high as like 18 or 19, which was pretty good. And to give you a sense of that, I played in a few matches, never got a letter or anything. But when I got to Harvard Business School a year after graduating from Yale, these big shit athletes, oh, there's a squash court here, let's go.
Wrecked them.
I beat everybody. And it wasn't like, you know, it wasn't like 15-13 or something, 15-0, 15-1, 15-1. We'll go around this way.
Are you saying Harvard sucks? But
No, Harvard's better than Yale.
Really?
In squash.
Everything here at Yale looks just so super. I mean, this is the gym, but like, look at this. We've got some guy like slaying some biblical creature up there.
Yeah. Well, remember I said 500 feet away is the inner city, you see? It's probably just about maybe 300 feet where those cars, that major north-south road.
I'm fixated on this.
Okay.
Is this Saint Michael or something slaying this serpent?
Which,
Up there.
I don't know, Jason. Could be.
Anyway. Okay, so you're telling me that the inner city
Is right over there. You can see the avenue, the cars going down it now. So up past that avenue is all rather rugged. And we'll go back this way and I'll show you a few more things. I also have stuff to talk about the Clinton Foundation, so we'll get to that after we play tour guide.
Let's do it.
But no, let's go back across the street.
Sure.
And I'll show you, I'm going to illustrate a number of the, or show people a number of the secret societies at Yale, which again are supposedly senior year excuses for college kids to bond.
But they're stealing dead bones from Geronimo and
in
stuff.
theory, then that's skull and bones. You know, they're different ones of them, you know.
But they did get in trouble for that, didn't they? The family of Geronimo.
Yeah, there's various and sundry published accounts. I think there was one in Esquire all about it.
Right.
And there might even have been one or more books written about it. Somehow I don't think that's going to intimidate anybody.
This is Muay Thai boxing, I think.
Yeah, but I mean, it's like some thug's going to look at that and say, oh yeah, come on, bring
it's
it.
more about the
and then,
athletics.
boom. Now,
Oh, yeah.
speaking of cemeteries, which nobody was doing, the Yale Cemetery, a Yale Cemetery is over here. I don't know if this is the new residential, there are two new residential colleges. This is, I think, the back. It's like there's some art there, lipstick. That says,
The Yale nuclear power plant.
Central Power Plant, yeah. Yeah. But you see, like those statues over there, Jason?
Let's check them out.
Yeah.
What, it's lions or something? What are they?
I don't know.
So that's interesting. Yale has its own power plant. What is it burning in there?
Probably coal.
Wouldn't there be thick black smoke coming out?
Just making the coal part up. So we have a secret society. You can sort of see it now, up dead ahead there, with the clever name of Book and Snake.
Uh-huh. That's pretty British. It almost sounds like a pub.
Now some of them, some of these places I've been in because they're not as tough as.
So wait, now hang on. So, yeah, let's look at that for a second.
Those are just lion. What are they called? Restaurant or lion?
I don't know.
Lion at rest, I think. That's just the standard architectural treatment. That, on the other hand, is the cemetery.
Which? Isn't that a little weird to have like how many?
Well, when you go to these old towns, I mean, I forget what the peak population of New Haven was, but this is a town that's been around for a long time. So there are a lot of dead residents, and you need. I mean, the town that I had property up in, where I had property in the town of Ancram, New York, Ancram, is like a peanut today of a town. At one point, it had multiple railroads going through it because it was a lead mine, and its cemetery. Yeah, the water was great. Its cemetery is massive. In fact, there's a cemetery for.
It's probably all the lead.
Go in there and get the
Gee,
lead
why
back.
is the cemetery so full?
I
Keep
don't
that
know.
lead mine going.
Well, let's study that for about 40 years. Get the government to do
Couldn't
that.
be linked.
Yeah. But during Halloween, people would think it was fun to go into the cemetery. It's like, I don't think so.
probably.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is the back of the law school.
Oh yeah. Wait. We gotta go check out the.
We're gonna go.
So wow.
It's quite a, this is quite a cemetery.
Are we gonna go in there?
I don't want to. We can, if you want to.
Somebody who would want to.
Or, well, we go if they let you in, which they may not.
Well, whoa! Look at the entrance.
Yeah. I guess you can go. I remember I was looking for an ancestor, last name Pendleton, up in Hyde Park, New York, and I go into this church and I say, there's like nobody in a church on a weekday, typically in Hyde Park, New York, where Franklin Roosevelt had his estate. And I go and I say, look, I'm doing some genealogical work. Can I believe there's a Pendleton buried here. I think this particular Pendleton was one of the seconds in the Burr duel. I forget which one he was, but anyway, so I go in, I drop this question on the person. They look at me like I'm fucking from Mars. And they said, did you notice the building as you came in over there? I said, no. Go back out and take a look at it. Pendleton.
Oh, wow. Now let's look at this for a second, Charles, because this is pretty interesting. And
wow. Yeah, this is Book and Snake. Look at the Greek over there, the Greek writing.
Where?
Right there.
Oh yeah, what does it say? Let's look at that. Can you read Greek?
No. Archie held 2020. I think that's just a statue. It was just recently put in there.
See, the reason I'm intrigued though, what's going on over here?
Yeah.
The dead shall be raised?
That's the whole idea, in
What?
Christianity. Go to
Is
heaven. Yeah, you go to heaven.
But that sounds
Gates
like more
are
like
locked
zombies.
4 p.m. daily. We can walk across the street. I don't want to spend too much time in here, but
No. But it's strange to me that it seems to be
especially as
Greek or ancient.
especially as it's locked at 4 p.m. I hate to get locked in here.
What
No
time is
loitering, rollerblading, phone. What does it say?
it? 3:30.
Stone rubbing, alcoholic beverages. Parking for
Roller skating.
cemetery visitors
No
only.
skateboarding. Perfect.
But this is quite something.
Indeed.
Quite a cemetery, my goodness.
It's the second cemetery I've been in
Yeah, I've had enough.
2 weeks. Well, I mean, is there anybody famous buried in here?
We'll look that up, turn it another time, maybe.
Okay. I find the entrance to be sort of ancient Greek looking, and then all these obelisks
Yeah.
are pretty, I don't know.
Obelisky?
Yeah, and then, I mean, this building is obviously built in the ancient Greek style as well. So what is the Snake and Book about?
Book and Snake is another secret society. Like, I'll show you a few more. There are quite a few of them. There are ones that existed when I was there, and then there are new ones that I don't even know about. To your right, I think, is part of the famous place, which has such august graduates as Chris Cuomo,
Really?
Bill and Hillary Clinton.
Oh, right. This is the law school.
Hunter Biden. So this is in the interest of promoting diversity. You want to have a number of crooked crackheads.
Yeah, I was going to say crack pipes are no longer allowed in the law school. Oh, skateboarding.
They really shouldn't be doing that on that marble.
Of course not.
But
Then people will say, oh, you guys are skateboard Karens. Everybody should be able to do whatever they want, even
Right.
if it's dangerous and they don't know what they're doing, and
Yeah.
it's obviously inappropriate.
Yeah, I think I've told you the story, but a friend of mine who's a lawyer, 20 years ago, his kid was 3 years old. They're in Central Park, and there's this really obnoxious kid with liberal parents. My friend's conservative, and the liberal parents' kid has a big fire truck they're playing with, and so my friend just at the end of the play just picks the thing up and leaves. The fire, you can't take my fire truck. That's what you're doing with my money.
Teaching the kid about socialism.
Teaching
it's not
the
your
father.
fire truck.
Teaching the father as well.
Yeah.
That's like, and this guy's I won't say who he is, but he's a very famous lawyer, independently wealthy.
You didn't make that fire truck.
You did build that. So here's the Yale Law School, which it's a shame. Knowing what I know about the school and some of the graduates, it's just a shame to see so many including the stupid-ass dean, who I had the pleasure of speaking with in May of 2019. I'll stand right in front here.
It's a Sterling Law building, Charles.
Yeah. Well, there's the Sterling. There's a lot of Sterling professors at Columbia. Mr. Bushman was the Sterling professor of history. Sterling professors at Yale are the highest grade, or used to be the highest grade.
Do people know who Mr. Bushman is?
Mr. Bushman is my ex-wife's father, and today actually Clarissa would have turned 65, but she didn't. So, standing here in front of Yale Law School, what they do, they have this thing called Yale Legacy Partners. And that's for people who have a big interest in Yale and give money to Yale, and it's a smaller subset of the population. So my father and mother were members of that, and my father now is a member of it. And he got sick in 2019 and couldn't go to the lunch. So I went to the lunch. I told you the last time I was here. And I don't think we'll walk all the way up to where I was, but the person who was speaking to us was the dean of the Yale Law School, who previously had been like an MSNBC host or something like that, a lawyer and this and that. And she assumed everybody in the room was rabid progressive liberal. And so she got up there and she said, you know, my proudest accomplishment of my students, the second Trump put the travel ban in, I exempted my students from classes and this and that. And I did this and I did that, and Trump's a fascist and all this kind of stuff. And I said to a friend who I knew was not liberal, I said, way to read the room. You know, because she's there asking for money. And so afterwards, I went up to her. I said, "Listen," because she talked about the importance of the law and the integrity of rule of law and all this kind of stuff. I said, "I'm working on a very interesting project involving fraud." And she said, "Oh, that's interesting. Do you teach a course here at Yale Law School on fraud?" "Oh, no." So, well, would you be interested in a story about Yale University and fraud and former presidents involving a lot of countries around the world? Exactly. Can I have your email address? Well, it's on the website. It's on the website. So I realized she's not going to do anything with it. But this place used to distinguish itself by having a very small class. And so it was known in my day as a place that you would go, if you wanted to be a law professor, you'd go here. If you wanted to go, or you wanted to be a judge or whatever, if you want to go to be a corporate lawyer, you go to Harvard, you know, or Columbia or something like that. And it used to be virtually impossible to get into. So I'm just amazed that Hunter Biden, with his record, would even dare to put an application in to try to get in.
Chris Cuomo.
Or Chris Cuomo, yeah.
Smart, really.
Let's go, now that we've gotten to Yale Law, we'll go down this way. And actually we'll make a right, we'll meander around a little bit. But it's just such a shame. The school today, I believe, is all pass-fail. So you get a whole bunch of brilliant kids together. I mean, how do you tell the difference between one person and somebody else? And that's obviously how Hunter Biden got through. They probably said, "We got a deal for you."
Is that because F's hurt people's feelings or something?
Exactly. Yeah, I don't.
Yeah.
So this walkway in the snow is spectacularly beautiful.
Wait a second. Before we move off of that, though, Charles, that's a little bit socialist in and of itself, because if you know you can't, your passing grade, if you get 98% or 99%, is no better than the guy who got 76%. Right. Why bother?
Exactly.
With all that extra work?
Exactly.
Just you're motivated to do the bare minimum. That's the problem with this type of social equity, whatever.
Right. So here we are at the Sterling Memorial Library.
Where? This?
Yeah. And this, I wish we could go in, but we can't. And it really is for people who love, you see that building right there? That's the Stacks. So if you love books, as I do, you go in here, and back in my day, you could go in, and if there was an ancient book from 1700 in the Stacks, you could just go right up and look at it.
What do you mean the Stacks? Is that a nickname?
That's what they would call it. Shelf after shelf, they just call it the Stacks. And you could study inside the Stacks.
Ancient books. That's pretty good.
Yeah.
And probably there's a real interesting stink to that kind of
No,
book.
I'm a book lover, and so.
But don't they have that library kind of?
Some. But then underneath here is a new library, which is, it's not so new. This is called Cross Campus underneath. So I'll show you in a second. And there's a series of residential colleges. I forget the names, but they're, all of them in front of us here.
It seems less crowded than I would expect on a sunny Sunday like this with school in, right?
Yeah, I don't know what the situation is here, whether it's back to full in-school learning, but typically on a Sunday, you have a lot of students who are sleeping off the night before and then getting up at the crack of 4 in the afternoon to go study
Well,
a
here we
little
have
bit.
Some people doing yoga.
Right. And so it used to be, I don't know how it's changed. It used to be you would get into cross campus somehow.
Oh, okay.
This is the library down there.
It used to be you could come in from here, but I guess, where's the entrance to cross campus? How do you get in there? Is that the old library down there?
I don't know. I'm a first year, so
Okay,
sorry.
no problem.
I just know you can't get this.
So you don't know where the library is. Things are probably not going to go well for you. But I know they redesigned this whole place, but it used to be that you would access the library that's underneath, it's more modern, that's underneath our feet through steps that would go down here, and they must have redone it.
Maybe this girl in the Def Leppard shirt knows. Do you know how to get into the library?
I do.
It used to be, I was class of 78, it used to be you could get into this library from like here.
You can get into it from over there.
Ah,
I'm
thank you.
surprised to see you wearing a Def Leppard shirt.
I didn't use that actually.
Okay.
She's not a student, right? She must be a
No,
teacher.
she's a student. Probably.
How does anybody who's 20 know anything about Def Leppard?
I don't know, Jason. Really?
Yeah, that's a little bit unusual.
That's like, who was the guy, the famous defense secretary? I think the name will come to me.
Lloyd Austin,
No. Oh, there's the entrance.
famous for being stupid.
No, he's a very, very famous guy, and he came and
Alexander Haig.
to address, no, it was like Kennedy era. And so I guess that's the entrance they're saying.
Maybe
Over.
George Bundy.
Nah, the name will come to. He's a Harvard graduate, and he came to speak to the Yale Political Union. There was a dinner beforehand. Yeah, here's the entrance, new entrance. See, the old entrance used to be up there, and then I think they re-engineered it.
Does it even say new entrance?
No, but you need to be vaccinated and everything to go in there. And so this library, when I was there studying here, there were cubby holes in the library where you could study. You could bring your books and you'd leave them there and you'd study. And those of us who wanted to study enjoyed that cross campus, and also sticking up in the back of the stacks, you could get a lot of work done in the quiet.
That also motivates restaurants where you can have like your own sake container or cigars or whatever.
Not sure I follow that one, Jason, but
There are fancy restaurants where you go in there and they have like some
Oh,
bottle
right.
of wine with your name on it that you sock away.
well, 21 Club used to do that.
What's this? Look, more Hebrew writing on.
This is one of the colleges. I forget which one. I think that one used to be Calhoun. I think. I forget what this one used to be. Well, we'll keep walking. It says on.
Calhoun doesn't look Jewish.
No. Yeah, this was redone in 2007. And this is another entrance to the library. The Bass Library. I think that's either Sid Bass or my classmate. Name will come to me. Bass.
That's pro.
And so now we're backing up. One of the other reasons we wanted to be here in New Haven is that recently Yale has admitted that the famed Vinland map is a forgery.
Oh, right.
And the Vinland map used to be kept in that beautiful building. Again, I don't have the kind of books that are in. Let's go over here.
So what is this building?
This is the Beinecke Library, Rare Book and Manuscript Library, and that's Woodbridge Hall, where the president and the trustees or the fellows, whatever they're called, that gather in this building to run the place. And straight ahead here used to be the freshman dining hall. And Woolsey Hall is a big place where They have, you see right there, it's now been renamed the Schwartzman Center at Wolsey Hall, but that's a very big auditorium where I was welcomed as a freshman, as succeeding classes and preceding classes, where the president gets up and welcomes everybody. And in my day, when you got there in the beginning, the president of Yale held an open house cocktail party for the entire incoming freshman class, which was just amazing. It was at his house on a day like today, and a little bit warmer, and uniformed waiters and whatever, with shrimp cocktail, lobster, vintage wines, top shelf liquor, 4 hours of this.
Wow. Getting hammered.
People got pretty hammered.
I guess the drinking age was 18.
Yeah. But there were kids in my class who weren't quite 18. And so,
Well, I mean, aren't people at Yale supposed to be studying all the time? Are these guys like local hoodlums, or are they Yale students?
probably they're from Harvard visiting. I don't know. It says Johns
So it's got a
Hopkins.
Johns Hopkins
for talented youth. It could be high school kids.
Well, but Johns Hopkins is another one of these schmuck-filled
Well,
institutions.
that's big time backed by
Bloomberg.
Bloomberg, exactly.
That's what I'm saying. So they're sending all these schmucks over here to skateboard and
So-
produce maps.
That's a whole map. But the Vinland map was unfortunate. I was saying to my dad, who's been very proud to support Yale. He got into Yale actually. He tells a story that he had visited Yale twice from Spokane, and his parents would send him on the rail back then, send him first class. And he told me that a first class ticket to go from Spokane with stops to New York and New Haven and back was $500 in like
Wow.
1942 or something.
Wow, and how long did it take?
2 nights, I think. I never done it. But
It's
beyond
probably
that,
like a Hitchcock movie. They give them Dover sole and caviar in a dining room. And
but so they interview him, and they back then their attitude was people from the West must be poor, and so they gave him a full scholarship to Yale, not asking him,
Wow.
how exactly did you afford to pay for this trip, the entire cost of a year at Yale, which is about what it cost back then. This is
The train ticket cost as much as the entire year.
this is Scroll and Key, which was in my day. Skull and Bones was the most well-known, most prominent, and this was the second.
No, see, that's
And
interesting.
Cy Vance Jr. was a member of Scroll and
the
Key.
current district attorney
Yeah.
of New York.
Right.
Yeah, so it's a criminal factory.
Easy, Jace. Easy. That's used to be St. Anthony's Hall. I don't know if it still is, with a gate there, and you see the writing on top of it.
Delta. What is that on top?
I think maybe it's something different now. I think the way this works is that if we put our foot out, Jason, they have to stop. So,
Well,
but let's go over here. I think this is
put you to that.
this is the Elizabethan Club over here. And one of the departments at Yale that is extremely highly regarded even today, and back in the day even more so, is the English department. So we've had very many super famous professors of English. And this is the Elizabethan Club here, and I was a member of this. I am a member of it technically. And I think it has Shakespeare's First Folio.
Wow.
It has all kinds of very important ancient books. One of the things that it had when I was here is that it had daily tea at 4 o'clock with sandwiches. So in my senior year of college in the fall, the work people went on strike. So the dining halls were shut.
You just eat sandwiches.
I come here. And then I got bored of being here with everything shut down, so I went to the person in charge of my program and said, listen, I want to go back to Kenya. Can I get a grant to go do that? Sure, how long do you want to go for? So I went for 5 weeks.
So you pay to come to the college, and then they give you money to go to Kenya.
It was a special program. Now let's see if we can see back into the courtyard here. I think we might be able to. There's a very nice, I don't know if we can see it. Maybe not. No. Well, yeah, you sort of can, Jason, from a distance. You've got these chairs out there, and in this type of weather, and particularly in the spring, you'd play croquet back there. And so this was really a confab more for the English professors and the English graduate students, and somehow I got in. Across the way, Sprague Hall is a place where we would take a lot of classes. And there we're going to go for a little bit of a walk here.
Charles, I think this new gimbal works better, so it's more Kaizen. I couldn't do these type of things, and also wouldn't even be able to have a car to bring us here to New Haven without the support of the viewer sponsors. So thanks to everybody who's supporting the show on subscribestar.com and patreon.com/crowdsource the truth.
That's great. So this, let's see what this is now. This is, I'm not sure what this used to be the music school, but I believe they switched where the music school is.
Authorized visitors only.
Yeah, throughout Yale now.
It's
Two-
really interesting architecture throughout the campus.
And on our left is what's called Silliman Hall, and Silliman College rather, Silliman. This used to be Naples Pizza, which was a great place.
It's donut crazy now.
But it was great pizza and pitchers of beer for nothing, and hero sandwiches and stuff. So the routine was, if you had spare money, what you would do is you study during the day, go to the dining hall for dinner, and then once you're done with your studies, you come and have a beer or two and some pizza there. And I think one of these places used to be the dry cleaner, which was the dry cleaner when my father was here. And the guy would claim that he knew, oh yeah, I knew your father. I mean, probably didn't. Maybe this is the music school. What's this? No, this is the Jewish Center.
Yeah, this has some Hebrew writing on it.
So the way, and I don't know that they call them that now, but the way each residential college works is it had, when I went to Yale, what was called a master. And the master, it had a master and a dean. The master was like the CEO, Mr. Goodtime. I mean, he was a great, funny guy. His name was not Homer Simpson. It was Homer something, though. I forget, it was Homer Babington or Homer something like that. That building right ahead is the master's house. We'll walk closer to it.
The one that says God is...
No, across the street. So this is Timothy Dwight College, where I spent 3 years. Remember, I went on a junior year abroad. And it occupies pretty much the whole block. It's got a nice interior courtyard. And as I say, I think the master lives over in here. So you get to be the master of the college. The downside is you have to live with the students, but the upside is you get a big ass house.
Well, maybe some of the masters want to live with the students.
Yeah, which is not a good thing. I mean, that's a substantial home.
It's huge.
Yeah. Now they call it head of college house, but they used to call it the master.
Well, I think that's racist.
So when I went, TD was known as the college for sons and daughters of alumni and athletes. And it was wild my freshman year. So we'll go over, there was many eccentric Yaleys have left endowments for crazy things. Somebody back in the day left an endowment not only for a drinking contest, once a year drinking contest, but for weekly practice sessions to practice up for this drinking contest, where you would take tables, and I forget how many people were on the team, whether it was 8 or 10 or 12, and you would take these smaller glasses, actual glasses, that were on purpose smaller, and when you were finished, what you would do is you wouldn't smash the glass, but you'd bring it down hard on the table, and it had to remain upright. And so it made these people around the table would be like, drinking as fast as they could. And as the endowment built, we'd house it over here in TD, and then Silliman would house it over there. It became a bigger and bigger to see which college could outdo the other in the way they arrived.
I don't understand why China's beating us.
So I remember one year, I don't remember which year it was, somebody came up with the idea of renting a whole bunch of vintage Rolls Royces and come in. I think it was this. We can't go in, but this is where we'll stay right here for a second. Okay.
Where's Timothy Dwight?
Yeah. So they sent these vintage machines in here to arrive, right? And I forget whether we countered the next year or they came back a couple of years later.
So they're driving in here, you're saying?
This wasn't closed typically. Now it's closed because of security. So they would come in at high speed from there or from the street, right? And in another year, I think it was like 2 years later, they came in with helicopters on top of this
Who's
thing.
paying for that?
The endowment.
Yeah, wow, how much was it?
I don't know. So,
Seems a lot.
so this is typically this is where it used to be where all the announcements would be. Straight through there is the dining hall to your right. And what we my freshman year, I was, if you were to go in here and make a left, I was the first. Go ahead. First, Jason, if you come here, I was senior year. I think one of those rooms up there, one of those rooms on the top. I had a single room up there, and on freshman year I was on the other side.
So this is housing inside there.
Housing inside. So what happened was another set of alumni gave an endowment for German beer night. Now, German beer night, this is all stopped because of what's happened ever since. But with German beer night, you went into the Timothy Dwight dining hall, which was really very nice, and it had these different tables out, and then he had these tables inset into the wall, right? And the upper class people knew you don't want to sit in there.
Why?
Because they actually had an papa band, and they had light and dark draft beer, and they had meatballs, and they had dinner rolls, perfect throwing things. And so people would just stack up. They get all these pitchers of beer, then they put the dinner rolls in the beer pitchers to get them really
Mushy,
really
red
hurt you.
projectile.
And then there was also a sort of a mezzanine level. And everybody knew what was coming, but there was kind of like a détente until the first, projectile
Salvo.
went. And the upper class people would turn over, take up the round tables, and put them like this, so you could, and then be throwing stuff from behind the table, and people would go up to you and just put like pitchers of beer on top of you. And by the end of my freshman year, it was like in October, Oktoberfest or whatever. But the next day, the sludge that was on the ground.
Yeah.
And it took like weeks to get that smell out of there.
Oh my God.
And while it was fun as a teenager, to participate, and you don't think this is Biafra is going on at the same time. We basically said we can't keep doing this, and so they stopped doing all that. But in the middle of all this, Homer Babington, I think that was his name, was Mr. Fun. I mean, he had cocktail parties and all this kind of stuff. And everybody was having a big old time. And then the administrator said, you know what, we got to rein this in. We got to put in a new master. And I think his name was Donald Kagan. And I think he is related possibly to that famous Kagan, Victoria Newland or whatever.
Project for New American Century.
Could be related. But anyway, Donald
Kagan.
Donald Kagan was a famed scholar of Greece and Rome, and an expert on Latin and whatever. And so he gave an interview about how life was going to change at Timothy Dwight College. And he said, I want to run Timothy Dwight College like a Greek polis, which is a community, very strict, all kinds of rules. And back then, the doors there were wooden. There were no glass. There was no glass. So the night before Kagan and his wife were due in for brunch, a bunch of the football jocks who were living in here decided it'd be really fun to get shit-faced. And then a number of them had motorcycles, and they played a game to see how fast they could go from here through the arch and stop by that wooden door.
Sounds like a crash.
And well, it was like at the end, it was fortunately nobody was hurt. I mean, it's probably a good thing the guy was drinking. He went so fast through the door that when the guy shows up the next morning with his wife, there's like an imprint
Wile
of like
Coyote.
Yeah. We'll walk up here. I'll walk around a little bit more. So what happened is that in time, the college had to expand, and so it took over more buildings. And there are a number of, some students like to live off campus, and they get tired of living in the smaller residential suites. You know, you're typically, my freshman year I had three more roommates. You have a common bathroom with many other rooms. If you go off campus, you can get, you know, proper house
Right.
or whatever. This used to be the annex for TD. I don't know what it is now. Be careful. Yeah. Rosenfeld Hall. I don't know what that is. But it was very much derelict. I mean, it's certainly not as well done up as this is.
Not a testing site.
We're walking to another secret society, which is called Berzelius. And again, since my day, a lot of this area has been taken over and redone. Maybe faculty housing and other student housing and new buildings.
Here's the testing site. Well, you dropped your phone.
Didn't pass that test.
Testing, right. Testing how before you can drop the phone.
No, fuck that test.
Well, I tell you, I'm glad I'm not going to college in the age of COVID. What a drag.
Yeah, that's one of the things I'm struck by is that when I was here, it was just nonstop. It wasn't a nonstop party, but it was a lot of activity.
Yeah, it's dead right now.
And with all the security concerns, you can't go into the campuses, you can't
Right.
do this, you can't do that. It's just got a very different kind of lockdown feeling to it.
I mean, the streets are empty here. It's a nice day. I mean, it's a little overcast. It was sunnier earlier, but I would have expected more people to be out.
Yeah. I don't know what that is. Temple Court.
So do we know, I mean, not to distract from Yale, but what's going to happen with Mark Milley and what's his name, Austin? And
Well, I mean, in a fair world, their pensions would be canceled. I mean, look at this. What's happening to the major or whoever's the person who is a master sergeant, the person begins with an S, who accused Milley and others of lying, and they
stuck him in the brick.
right, and you know, as perhaps there's a different set of circumstances with the FBI. You know, Hannity would always say, you know, the line agents of the FBI are good, it's the managers who are bad. One of our good loyal fans has sent me some stats which I don't have in front of me, but there are many hundreds of generals, over 1,000 in the various forces. That's before you think about retired generals, and I just think there are too many cooks in the kitchen here.
Yeah.
I mean, you can't look at the period September 11 or 10, 2001 forward and say, attaboy, great job. I mean, if you think about it, what we've done is we've empowered, it's not the swamp, we've empowered I'm going to now try to push this idea, we're going to call them hysterians. People are always, you know, they're hysterical, but do this, do that. This is Berzelius.
There's something Chinese over there.
Oh yeah, Yale China Association. Yale actually was in the Republic of China very early.
What do you mean?
It sent people to teach English over there.
Was G.H.W. Bush one of them?
No.
Oh.
Yeah, but
Wasn't he the ambassador to
later.
China, right?
Yeah. But you can imagine how this part of Yale was more run down. You see the modern buildings have replaced sort of buildings like this. But of course, this was here when I was at Yale and before then.
See, I'm interested, Charles, in some of this. I don't even know what you would call it, but like these symbols within the windows and things like that. These seem to be recurring themes.
Yeah, as I understand it, the purpose of these clubs was really just to allow kids to come together at an important point in their lives and bond. It was supposedly as benign as that. Now, in real life, was it different? I don't know. So we go.
Huh, look at that.
What?
Well, that sculpture with the twisted arrows.
Yeah, let's go up this way, Jason.
Sure.
It looks like it's going to rain, actually.
Yeah, it's because you know what? I was checking the weather in New York.
Rain?
It's nice there.
Okay.
Maybe it is going to rain here. Hope not.
So when my parents got married, they lived. I don't remember the exact Mansfield Street. I think they lived on.
You have to call it Personsfield Street now, because otherwise it's racist.
And at the time, they did not. Oh, there's a Mormon church.
Whoops.
At the time, my father did not know that one of our early ancestors, and we have a lot of them, was one of the early settlers in Mansfield, Connecticut. Yeah, he was living on Mansfield Street, which certainly has some connection to Mansfield, Connecticut. Now, the president of Yale used to live on Hill House Avenue, which is where we are coming to, and I don't know, from memory, it was 43 Hill House. That map might tell us.
Oh, wow.
Funny thing about maps. You don't overpay for them, they're quite useful.
So what is the deal with that map that you're telling us was a forgery?
Well, so I forget if Yale bought it or a donor bought it and gave it to Yale, but it purported to be proof that there had been Viking contact prior to Columbus, and it was supposedly a map showing those settlements. And at various points in time, people have said, oh, it's bullshit, and then they say it's real, but now they're conclusively saying it's bullshit. Now here's where we are, Jason. And I don't know, did you see Mansfield Street? Prospect Grove.
Wouldn't it be listed over here?
Well, I don't know, it's not the streets, but all these blue buildings are Yale. And this is where we are.
Yeah.
So there's it's a very large
Huge.
campus, much bigger than it was when I was here. So we're here. Here's Hill House Avenue. Here's 43.
Good news, Charles. People can watch us on rumble.com
Well, let's just walk.
/user/CS the truth.
We'll just walk in. Let's see, does it say President's House?
Just walk in and be like, is the president here?
Yo,
We're here.
I went to this place. I want an
We
after
got
action.
more construction going over there.
I want to have an after action report here. You know, I don't think I got my money's worth.
No, I think you did.
Now this is where the rich folk used to live.
Hill House Avenue.
But now
Super into scary buildings.
But so much of this is now owned by Yale. It wasn't all owned by Yale when I went here. I want to say the president's house might even be that one.
I mean, this is kind of like a scary, haunted neighborhood.
And direct up ahead is we'll walk up to Science Hill, which is about as close as I ever got to Science Hill. My father lived on Science Hill.
It's not the hill you want to die on.
My father's lab partner in physics was Horace Taft, who, you know, the grandson of the president.
Wow.
And my dad didn't think he was particularly smart.
Did you notice that nobody is named Horace anymore?
I went to Horace, man. Beg your pardon?
Got that? I mean, that guy's dead.
Still dead.
Right.
Yeah.
And I guess that name comes from another Greek myth of Horus.
Perhaps, but I think what we'll do is if you ever get a dog, maybe someone will get your dog and call
Name
it
him Horace?
Horace or your ass. Here's your ass, man. Come on, man.
Your ass.
These are some serious old buildings.
Yeah. So this is just somebody's house? No.
I think when they all say when they say Yale University on it, means
It's like a library.
they own them. There are a lot of institutes and affiliates of Yale and departments. So, and again, I arrived here in September of 1974, so things have changed.
I just wonder how practical living in any of these
Yeah,
houses
this is 43. This could be, from memory, this might be the president of Yale's house. I may have that wrong, but it kind of, see there's a tent set up back there. maybe people in the comments can check. But I think this was at one point the president of Yale's house. And you can look at how big the yard is.
Wow. Just getting ready for a some kind of party or something.
Yeah.
People are saying that even though it's full of weird symbolism, the campus has amazing architecture.
It does.
I agree with that.
Yeah. Is this the president of Yale's house?
Sorry, sir, I do not know.
All right, it's okay. No problem.
Have a good day.
You too.
Charles, what we're learning is that it seems that nobody at Yale really knows anything.
That's right. Do you know where the library is?
No.
Nope. Well, why would I know that? I mean, I'm not going to go there.
Tell you where you could buy a skateboard.
That's right. I know how
I
to
mean,
get.
this is not the Addams family's house.
Da-da-da-da. Is that the president of Yale's house?
I do not know.
Okay.
Sorry.
It's all right. Probably only been here 3 years. So what?
I mean, I guess it's...
Have you seen the ad for the shingles vaccine?
No,
They say
but I have natural immunity to shingles.
lucky you. So they
Having
say
had it.
they say in the commercial there's a shingles vaccine. Say what? You have to study it, yeah? Say what?
Do you think most people are like hanging around worried about getting shingles? And also, I don't know, has anybody ever died of shingles?
Probably. I don't know. Probably.
Really?
If they were to decide it were an issue, they'd probably say, now look, what is that? Are those lights up there, or is that a reflection of the sun?
I think it's light inside the place.
So I think this starts to be Science Hill. And again, I didn't study science at all, so I propose we go this way because I know nothing about this. And we'll just,
What is this sculpture?
probably, we on the Vinland map, Yale's decision after realizing, I think somebody spent in the millions for it, that it's now a fake, they decided to exhibit it anyway. And I said that to my
Wow.
dad, you know, how does that make you feel about giving money to Yale? That you know, they're going
Just to send them fake money.
That's the way I
And
think.
be like, listen, I found out it's fake, but I'm sending it anyway.
We'll go this way. It's slightly different.
That's nice.
Yeah. So these are all, these are mega houses, which to run them today, and I think they're mostly owned by the university, to run a house like that today, you would need at least
A staff, right?
one person, if not,
I think
two inside and
Yeah.
maybe a few outside. And
Somebody would need to be cleaning it constantly,
Right.
fixing things in it all the time.
so, do we have a minute for some Clinton Foundation stuff? What do you
Charles,
want?
we have all the time you want.
Well, just a few things on this.
Absolutely. Let's do it.
So, when George Bush took office, George W., on January 20th, 2001, that happened to be a day pursuant to law. That was the last day that records relating to the Reagan presidency and the George H.W. vice presidency could be shielded from the public, that very day. And Bush got into office and extended the deadline twice, to a point I think in April and to a point in June, and then extended it again through 9/11. And straight ahead, in case you're wondering, that's the Ingalls ice hockey rink.
Ingalls like the supermarket?
Ingall Ingalls, which used to be
Ingalls.
painted white, and I think used to look
Too
like a whale.
racist.
Used to look like a whale, and used to be covered, I think, in asbestos. Again, this, if you go, that lunch I was
Did
telling
you
you,
say covered in asbestos?
there was asbestos everywhere, I think. Yeah, probably not a strong word.
We decided instead of asbestos, we're going to now use uranium.
And plague. Yeah. So if you go straight up this hill quite a ways, you get to the center for Yale. I don't know why they think we're going to put a van into a podcast, but anyway, there are quite a few institutes and buildings up this way, and if we go down back this way, this is the new residential college here that was built in the last several years. Again, it looks old, that there. There were two residential colleges added. And TD, when I was there, had about approaching, I don't know if it was quite 400 kids in it in total, or whether it was more like 350. So you figure, that back when I went, it was roughly Founders Hall. It must be, I don't know what it is. But one of the things that is striking to me as somebody who remembers Yale in 74 to 78, that the sidewalks were, cracked. There was dirt everywhere. It wasn't particularly landscaped. The buildings weren't that way.
So the whole city's been rebuilt, basically.
Well, donors have given billions of dollars to Yale. And the guy who recently died, who ran Yale's endowment, David Swenson, really was a fantastic investor. Yeah, this is now called Pauli Murray College. I have no idea.
When they say residential colleges, what do you mean?
So at Oxford and
Just,
Cambridge,
housing?
at Oxford and Cambridge used to be that different institutions, Oriel College at Oxford, Magdalen or whatever, they were basically places that where scholars gathered to live with students. And they were all in a loose association that became stronger and stronger with Oxford and Cambridge.
This is closed.
Yeah, we'll go across there. And so Yale and Harvard have a slightly different system where you can take courses, they're typically tutorials in the residential colleges, at least you used to, but your courses were administered in central buildings. And you regarded the residential college as a place where as this head of college, Benjamin Franklin College. Now, why they would name something after Benjamin Franklin who had absolutely nothing to do with Yale is beyond me, but
We're not even in Philadelphia.
I know. And he was kind of a wild man, Benjamin Franklin. He was kind of a Me Too kind of dude.
What are you talking about?
He was, he liked to live, let's just put it that way.
Me Too, like people would be giving Me Too complaints against him.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I'm
that
surprised.
makes sense. That's what I've heard.
Yeah, I'm surprised that,
Oh, yeah.
and there's Rosencrantz Hall.
Where's Gilder?
I was going to say.
But then there's this, like, 57
Chevy.
Chevy.
Yeah, it's Chevy. We hadn't gone this far when we saw it before, right? We saw another
He
one.
must be driving around.
Yeah, maybe he's following
Well,
us.
I would, yeah.
So back on the George Bush story. So the real challenge, the first set of records that were to be owned by the people and not by the presidents by statute were Reagan's and H.W. Bush's. And the way the statute and regulations worked is the sitting president, within a 12-year time frame max, had the right to keep stuff private. Now, if it's national security, you go beyond 12 years, I think, but it really had to be national security. It couldn't be spurious national security. Right. So on the day that he got in, George W. Bush, that was the final deadline for deciding what to do with his father's records and Reagan's records. And those records likely included things that were very dodgy about Iran-Contra, about U.S. backing of the Mujahideen.
Doesn't that make it interesting that Jeb was in charge of the state where the Chads were hanging and all that?
Yeah. But so my point is that's a significant date. And on that date, by that date, that's the date Bill and Hillary hauled ass, literally, out of the White House. And
with the furniture.
Tried to with the furniture. And by that date, Bill had arranged, his foundation had arranged to purchase this Camp David on the water on Lake Hamilton in Hot Springs, Arkansas, as a retreat for the staff of the Clinton Presidential Library, of which there weren't any at that point.
Why do they need a retreat?
They don't.
They're just local people working for a library?
They don't. So, instead of having the 2,500 people who were guarding, in theory, who were going to be required to have Afghanistan, you needed about 2 lawyers and somebody who understood how to read to look at the Clinton Foundation.
Where are you going to find that?
Well, if you, look
Lawyers
at
that can read, Charles, come on.
Bill Clinton has just closed, his foundation has just closed on the purchase of land in which he and his family had an economic interest in Hot Springs, Arkansas, where the Clinton Foundation was not supposed to have any operations. That deal closes fourth quarter of 2000, and all the filings for the Clinton Foundation are hopeless The articles of incorporation are hopeless. There's no audits. There are all kinds of defects, all kinds of unreported conflicts. And this is by December 31st, 2000. By February 15th, 2001, there is an open FBI investigation into Bill, into Hillary, into the Clinton Foundation for money laundering, fraud, corruption, and they can't see this?
Obviously they can. There's some sort of negotiation going on between these criminals. Like, I wasn't just making a side comment when I said, because I do remember in 2000, the back and forth, I was not nearly as tuned in to political stuff as I am right now, but I did vote, and it was a pretty unique situation. I remember thinking it was weird, and I mean, it's exactly, we can't even really,
Yeah, we won't get into it.
yeah.
But all I will say is the record is very clear, the publicly known record. I don't need any help from the FBI or any insider. The record that's out there is crystal, as it were, hence the title, in the empty skulls of the
Right.
people who are trying to believe and hoping they can believe that we aren't going to figure out or haven't figured out how much of a fucking fraud this period has been from really, I would say, 89 to the present, you might say earlier to the present, where arguments are made and people blindly support the notion that we need to waste trillions of dollars on a military that thinks in its leadership there can be such thing as a strategic victory in retreat. And there's no such thing.
They're
You
still
lost.
trying to argue that.
Yeah.
Milley was trying to argue that to Congress, that it was a tactical defeat,
Right.
but a strategic victory. It's like, dude, come on.
You shit the bed, dude.
Yeah, it was about as bad as it could have been. You couldn't have made it worse if you tried.
What is this? What is Yale for?
It's an excellent question. Throwing meatballs.
Tax
and getting
bracket of
drunk.
157 million.
What's this for? Research participants for $890. Interested in losing weight? Willing to participate in a personalized weight loss program for $890. You could sit in a room and not eat.
We should send that to Hillary Clinton.
Yeah. No prior education is needed. Why is it $890? Why wouldn't they just make it $900?
I don't know. Well, look, they fixed this up.
What is this?
This is that Woolsey Hall that we saw.
Schwartzman Center, this says.
Yeah, it's Woolsey Hall, but renamed the Schwartzman Center.
James Woolsey?
No, before that.
Who's Woolsey?
I don't know. Let's see what these are all about here. Gives you a sense of what Yale's doing now. Yale's for Palestine Film Night. Here's healthy females aged 18 to 55 needed for a research study involving the administration of THC.
Wow.
Same for male.
Sounds like an invitation to a party.
Exactly.
18 to 55, and if you like weed, call this number.
This is pretty funny.
ADHD support group.
Don't even
I
write
looked at that
down.
for like 5 minutes, and I just...
Don't even write it down because you won't remember where it's held. But
Do you remember there was this character on Saturday Night Live called the Ladies Man?
I don't
And he had a
remember.
radio show, and he's saying, if you're between the ages of 18 and 50 and not disgusting, please call.
Bill Clinton's going to host that one.
Yeah, exactly.
But this is where major concerts were performed. I think my mother performed a concert here when she was in music school.
It's a very impressive building.
Yeah, and it's where major addresses are given. This, I guess, is MCM 1901 as well.
Pretty good.
And we're now
Woolsey Hall.
almost. There's more we could look at, I suppose. But how are we doing on time?
Well, we've been broadcasting for about 90 minutes. I must commend Yale on its high quality,
Internet?
yes, wireless network, that it's been quieter than our normal show.
That's still, I mean, you see, each of these residential colleges has a big courtyard. And so the function of them is where you sleep at night, in theory.
In the courtyard?
No, in your room, but it's where you congregate after classes.
Uh-huh.
And, you know, you can interact with people who are not necessarily in your year, which is a good thing. So you're just not hanging around with everybody in your 1 year.
That's cool.
Yeah. And each college has, I don't know if they still call them fellows, but they had when I was there fellows. And when I got to Harvard Business School, I was a fellow in Winthrop College. And not knowing at the time that an ancestor, John Coggeshall, was an arch enemy, or I should say rival, of John Winthrop. And John Winthrop held a trial for Anne Hutchinson. My ancestor Coggeshall backed Anne Hutchinson, so Winthrop picked him, my ancestor, and his family, and a whole bunch of other people out of Massachusetts in 1638 or thereabouts.
So they're like, you again.
No, but it was kind of ironic that I was a fellow in Winthrop Hall
Yeah.
and didn't know that that fucking asshole had mistreated my ancestor. But
So did you withdraw from that?
I didn't know till afterwards, well, decades later.
Ah,
But we got the better end of it because the Coggshalls went off to found Rhode Island. Yeah, this is another Sprague Hall. I think this is another place where there are concerts.
looks
mean,
like chamber music.
The level of extracurricular activities is quite high in this university. I mean, it really is. Many of the disciplines are, if not the best, they're certainly up there. And you can come here as somebody who thinks they're just interested in history, and you can end up being a crackhead, or you can end up being an expert in math or music or...
Seems like a lot of Jewish stuff. I always thought that Yale was not into having
Again,
Jewish people.
Yale was founded as a school to teach ministers, and Christians do study the Old Testament
Right.
and revere it. And so you're going to see, and actually people would study back in the day Hebrew.
Wow.
And here we have the present level of undergraduate majoring in
God.
juggling, and not know, you know, if you're majoring in juggling, of course you don't need to know where the library is. You can't juggle in the library.
Juggalos.
That's John Kerry. He was a juggalo.
Ask them if they like the Insane Clown Posse.
He is. Oh yeah, there's the new School of Music. So this used to be somebody went and gave Yale $100 million to the music school, so that now I believe you don't have to go.
You don't even know how to play music. You can go there.
Yeah, I don't play anything. Can I go to the? No, you don't pay tuition, or the tuition's greatly reduced. And because my mother went there, my parents have given generously to Yale School of Music, various ways, and to School of Physics.
Well, I think it would be racist to not let somebody into the School of Music simply because they don't know anything about music.
That's right. Or, you know, I think I should get, you know, I'm 6 feet tall, actually 6'1.5". I think,
NBA?
I don't want NBA. I want a Super Bowl ring.
Yeah, why not?
I want 10 of them.
You've watched it. You deserve one.
Yeah, I feel that I deserve it.
I agree. Oh, here's this noisy thing.
Yeah.
Well, Charles, maybe this is an opportunity for. Is there anything else that we want to discuss about Yale?
Well, just in the distance is the Yale Green,
Should
which
we
is
go in there?
We could, if you want it. What we could do is, why don't we go back around up a block?
Yeah, because that thing
Yeah.
makes a lot of noise.
And there's the Yale bug, just flew into my head. But it is definitely.
What a hat.
I'm going to get in trouble, so I won't say anything. But you can see how, if you just look at New Haven itself and ignore Yale, you say, who would want to go to school
Right.
at Yale? But then if you go onto the campus, you know, it's pretty nice.
Yeah, it definitely is. I mean, I have never been here before. I've never been
can go up this
remotely
way.
close to here. And I was saying earlier when we arrived, it's a little bit like Disneyland
Right.
University World.
Exactly.
This is what kind of every other college is trying to do.
Yeah. And I remember I took, sophomore year, I took this course in
A lot of
economics,
balls in the air.
on tax policy. And the midterm exam was design the perfect income tax. And so I was a supply sider. You know, I was trying to raise as much money with the lowest possible tax rates. You know, get rid of capital gains, all this kind of stuff. They give me an F.
What?
Yeah. So I go in, I go to the professor. I say, "What's this all about? How come I get an F?" "Oh, that's not the ideal tax policy. Is the one that wrings as much tax, is as burdensome as possible on the electorate." I said, "You know what? It's a good thing Yale has a policy
your concern
that
is you're
I can drop this class because fuck you. I'm out of here."
What did the teacher say to that?
I-
You get an A for that.
No, we couldn't do anything.
Well, now it definitely seems like it's going to rain.
Yeah. We're not, so we're just going to do a quick circuit,
Sure.
and then we'll be done.
It's interesting,
See
this
more
person
students.
has, like, a chair in the middle of the...
I would have. Yeah.
Yeah. Interesting that you, well, of course, when I was here, Al Gore hadn't invented the internets yet. So you actually had to go into the library. Did you have this when you were in school, or was the internet very active?
I was the only person, I was one of the only people to have a computer when I started at NYU.
Now, there's a,
And they did not have... the first time I ever saw the internet was maybe sophomore or junior year at NYU.
you saw the internet?
Well, I mean, I was taking a class in computer animation, so we had...
We're gonna have to
we've
go.
walked by this building many times. This dog is investing in Dogecoin. Everybody says that, right? Dogecoin. The 3D animation class was taking place in some mathematics building because we needed to use Silicon Graphics,
Right.
Indigo, and Iris computers.
Now you're
And
talking Swahili, but that's okay.
just like, $150,000, $200,000 computers at the time. And went into the animation class one day, and a dude was on the internet, and I was like, "What's that?" He's like, "It's the internet." And I was like, "What's that?" And we now know. Look at this, Mike Brabiglia is coming.
Well, what kind of a question is this to ask?
Do you have
If
memory
you did,
loss?
how would you know?
I think I did, but I can't remember it.
It's a serious problem.
This is that person doing the weed test?
So back in my day, you would have all these, typically you have lots of speakers would be coming in the coming week, and you'd have, the Yale Political Union is going to have this speaker, and somebody else is going to come.
Well, Mike Brabiglia is coming.
Who the hell is that?
He's a comedian.
Is he funny?
I think he is funny. I haven't seen him in a while. Big furniture sellout.
Is that Pramila Jayapal? No.
I don't know. This is Hillary selling White House furniture.
So yeah, this is a nice touch. This used to be a street on which cars would patrol, and so you had to be pretty careful.
Well, it makes you just feel smarter to be walking here, Charles. These buildings.
You get a few IQ points
Yeah.
as a result of coming here.
Making dumb comments to people
So we'll walk
about
back.
their Shiba Inus.
We'll walk back by Skull and Bones, and then we'll walk down to the show people the park in the center of the Common, in the center of New Haven, and then we'll call it a day.
I want someone to do an expose of Skull and Bones. I feel like there has
It's been done. No, there's a book on it.
So, not so secret anymore. And then Tim Russert asked, I think, W about it, and then he had a heart attack or something.
Well, before my time, it was, they published it in the yearbook each year, who was in it.
How do you like those pants?
I know,
Charles?
I got some of those. Not. Yeah.
The guy's like going through his closet, like, yeah, I'll wear those today.
I did a major in looking like a gypsy. He's probably, MacArthur Genius Grant recipient, for all we know.
Definitely
Here's
not.
Biggie Small's house.
Wow, look at that.
Big's house.
Not
That
bad.
must be where the head of college, probably is where the head of college hangs out. Head of the residential college. I think that gate, is that open?
Where?
No, it swings shut. Yeah, it swings shut. Should we walk over there and just show people the
Sure.
old campus? But it's just back, and again, I don't know if students are held home, but on a day,
It's open.
no, it closes, you see?
Oh, right, that kid must have
Yeah.
a card or something.
And we really shouldn't go in there.
Yeah, no,
because
they're
they freak
using
out.
access cards.
Well, they do keep track of everybody
Right.
who goes in. And
Because like everything in society now, Charles, it must be restricted, controlled,
right,
disallowed.
it's just sad to see this, because back again 45 years ago on this type of a day, this Indian summer day, you would have seen people playing touch football, frisbees, whatever.
Indigenous Peoples Summer Day.
Right.
Sorry.
And it would be, a lot of mayhem would be going on, because this is, these are the freshmen. These are 18, 19-year-old people. And you see here, authorized Yale personnel and their guests only. And my attitude would be, if I were to waste any time thinking about this, I'd say, look, when you go to the university and when you're graduated, you are a member. You're an authorized Yale person.
Yeah.
And what we're going to do, is we're going to choke off the entrance to Yale, so you can't come in to the campus unless you present. But once that's choked off, you can go into any part of Yale that's open. When I see this in the lockdown, my attitude is, I'm very happy I'm not giving a penny to Yale, and I won't.
Yeah.
Until they change, and maybe they'll never change, in which case I just have more money to give my kids. But
I agree.
That's Brantford, which is very beautiful.
Yeah.
We'll walk down this way and then down to the common and down and out.
Now, is this thing we saw earlier?
The Quattro?
Very powerful looking Audi. Yeah, it is.
The same one?
No, it isn't. That's the RS7 I was telling you about. That thing is insane.
It's what, 100,000?
Oh, I don't know the cost, but it's like 600 and some horsepower. It's a very revered vehicle. Yeah. We see a lot of interesting cars on our walks, Charles.
You know who is another person who has a different kind of power? The Hysterian AOC.
Yeah.
She has 1,000 horses ass power.
Horses teeth power.
Ass. Yeah. I mean, she's just, to me, that kind of trash talking. She was trying to trash talk Kirsten Sinema and Kristen, whatever her name is, and Joe Manchin.
Yeah.
She thought she'd get away with, is this the Joe Manchin from June? Or the Joe Manchin from September? Or the Joe Manchin from October? Listen, you insolent bonehead. She probably can't even balance her own checkbook.
I don't even think she knows what that is.
So we're like, how many bribes did I get this week?
Right.
Just put the cash over there underneath the coffee table.
What's going on with her abuela? That apartment looked terrible.
This was a classroom. When I was here, this is one of the places.
Lindsay Chilton Hall.
Chittenden.
Chittenden? Yeah.
Yeah.
So what's this thing?
That's Skull and Bones.
No, this.
This, I forget what it is. We'll show people something. Now, if you had an architecture school, would you think that the architecture school, they'd probably try to make it look good? I mean, you're trying to put out architecture.
That's one school of architecture.
Yeah, you're trying to get kids to go through the rigorous process of learning how to become an architect. And my simplistic way of thinking is I say, you know what, why don't we have a building that's really special? And I want to show you, with that preamble, let's look at Yale's School of Architecture. And on a scale of horrific to worse, this is, I think, part of the old campus still. I want you to give me a sense whether this is just dreck,
Gabe's older brother met
horrible,
his wife at Toad. People.
worse than dreck.
Where is it?
You'll see it in a second. It's going to be on our right. To me, it's like leftover vomit mixed in with, I don't know what. It's just...
They don't have quite as much garbage on the street as they do in New York City.
They ship it to New York.
Yeah.
I think Yale Medical School is over that way. Is a huge complex for that. But Jason, that building, we'll walk up to it, is the architectural
Doesn't seem
school.
like that demolition crew did much work with regard to emptying that dumpster at the Skull and Bones.
They probably charge somebody a lot of money.
Yeah, they're just removing 2 items per day. We'll be back on Monday.
So again, this used to be unremarkable territory. I don't remember. I don't think that complex was like that when I was here. Yale's art gallery is quite special. There's an amazing collection of art in there, and there are various art galleries. But there's the architecture school, dead ahead, across the street. I mean, it's just a beige pile of concrete. Right? I mean...
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if you and I are qualified to make commentary on architecture, but
Well, I don't know. I think I've employed architects. I can tell the difference between.
yeah, it doesn't look like much. It's just
It's like, so you spent X years at Yale School of Architecture, and you tolerated working in this building, learning from people who approved, as architects, the erection of this monstrosity. And you want me to pay you to be my architect?
yeah,
It's like, look at it.
Art
It looks
vandalism.
dirty.
it does look dirty.
That looks better. I don't know if that's an extension.
I don't know. There it is.
Not too impressive. So we'll cross the street, we'll go down, and then
Sure.
we'll end up at the car.
Well, it's been an interesting day trip to Yale. They've got that map.
Yeah, the Vinland map. Thanks for doing the heavy lifting of getting us there.
Alexander Vinman map.
Getting us there, hopefully getting us back in one piece.
He's a bit of a inauthentic.
Dump truck driver.
Yeah, he's friends with Schwarzenegger now, and
Oh, is
he's
he really?
doing all kinds of I don't know what. I got distracted by that guy.
He was giving you, he's a fan, Jason.
Yeah, he was polite. He didn't.
Right. They had, in my day, they did have people hanging out on the street who you thought were street people who in fact were undercover cops.
In Yale, they had.
Oh
that?
yeah.
Why?
Well, people were murdered here.
Really?
It was, the 70s in here in New Haven? Are you kidding me? It was rough. This, where we are now, is just the bound. This used to be pretty much derelict. And especially as you headed to my right, your right, you got into deeper and deeper trouble. There were a lot of older buildings that people had abandoned. And then after a while of a lot of prosperity, generally in the country, specifically around Yale, people became brave enough to redevelop some of the older buildings. Other buildings were knocked down.
Seems pretty nice around here now.
No, it's very nice. Starbucks, evidently. Basketball team.
Yeah, wow. That's just crazy to me that you got Yale security people riding bicycles on the sidewalk.
Exactly, that's a
So
good point.
stupid.
Yeah, right. 10,000 Villages, a fair trade retailer, I'll bet.
It takes 10,000 villages, and that's it. Black Lives Matter.
To rip off. 10,000 villages to rip off.
Well, Charles, it's been a very educational day trip and a nice day here in Yale. I think not that many people. I guess they're 100% vaccinated, so maybe they don't need the masks. Is what it is.
No. See, this is a new development in here. It was not here when I was here.
Union League Cafe. All right. Well, I think we're almost back to the car.
We are. We'll go through the
Sure.
common just so people can see it, and then we'll be at the car.
Oh, sure. I don't know what that common is.
That's the equivalent of Washington Square Park. It's,
Have we been through that already?
we haven't been in it,
Oh, okay.
but we've been near it, but we haven't been in it. This way we're bypassing. If we go to the middle of it, and then we'll end up right by your car, basically. And with luck, we will avoid the rain, at least on the walk portion.
This restaurant has had enough, Charles.
Evidently, some of its patrons have not. I mean, that fellow needs to lose 150 pounds, 200 pounds.
Cornucopia.
So that's the common there,
Ah.
with a green.
Hey, and there's the Taft apartment.
Yeah, this used to be the Taft Hotel.
Well, weren't
We
you
don't-
just telling me something
Yeah,
about Taft a
same.
minute ago?
Yeah, Forest Taft. So this when Yale was in full swing, when my parents were here, this was a serious hotel, and around here it was safer. The Schubert Theater's there, but then it fell into disrepair. And again, as you head
Oh, yeah, look at that.
as you head this way, it gets more and more. It got more and more dicey to the point where people were killed in there. And a barrier between that portion and Yale was this common. You can go, I guess. And back in the day when people went to church actively, they would go to these, I think there's 1 or 2 or 3 churches here, in their Sunday finest. Go to church, and then some who could afford it would come and go to meals for restaurants, for lunch, for whatever. But this place really fell into disrepair. Some buildings were knocked down and a Shake Shack put up. This is a building that has been renovated.
Sneaker junkies.
Yeah.
What? Did you hear what that guy was saying?
I couldn't understand what he said. I said,
That was some crazy mumbling, I think.
oh yeah. This place looks like it's out.
Indeed.
You see, it's just that even on the different sides of the green.
I'm surprised this hasn't been shut down. Kitchen sink. It should be kitchen vaccine.
Kitchen stink.
Because
Cantina, Taco
it's
Bell.
like a climbing community, you know. So
But can you sense the feel just on the other side of the green or whatever they call it, the common? It's a very different feel from
Yeah.
the Yale side.
Well, I think it's the buildings are different.
And look at the sidewalks, or
Yeah,
we didn't see a
sidewalks wider.
single cracked sidewalk,
Oh, good point.
and
You're right.
stop off and get you a poke bowl. So why is it that this side of the place would be?
Why is this place selling an iPhone 7? Huh. They're up to 13.
Well, I think we want to stay away from that guy. This used to be an old-fashioned jewelry store, I think.
What does this say? Police take notice.
Oh no, now it's Subway, locally owned and operated. But I think before that, it used to be a jewelry store.
no exaggeration. I've never had.
Jason, there's a weird guy across the street, so I think we should go this way and that way,
Sure.
and so we don't engage the weirdo.
I'm with that.
And then we just cross this, and your car is right up to the left.
Excellent. Well, all right. I mean,
So I really did go here.
I believe you, Charles. You know a lot about it, and it was interesting to see for sure. Do we want to? What's in the
We want
middle?
to just go right in along that crosswalk once the light changes. We don't want to go to the end and up, I don't think.
Right.
We'll
All
get-
right. Well, anyway, so I think we're going to close it out here on the walk into this park. Definitely want to thank the viewer sponsors who make the show possible every day, and would not be able to do these types of interesting trips. What is that?
I don't know.
It's a very strange sound, but
New Haven Green, yeah.
New Haven Green wouldn't be able to do these kind of interesting trips to New Haven and Yale if it were not for the viewer sponsors. So thank you to everyone who's been sponsoring the show. Had a great episode with John Cullen on Friday. New information about the Las Vegas shooting 4 years after it occurred. Hardly anyone was talking about the Las Vegas shooting on October 1st, which was
Wow.
disappointing. So tune in and check that out. John and I are developing some more information with that. We'll have more Vegas info soon. And we'll be back tomorrow with another great episode with Manny Grossman. So now is the perfect time, beginning of the month, to get on to subscribestar.com/crowdsourcethetruth or patreon.com/crowdsourcethetruth.
Yeah, let's get going.
That's a crazy guy
Yeah,
for
yeah,
sure.
yeah, let's-
Now we see where homeless people are hanging out.
Yeah, let's
right.
yeah.
Anyway, thanks for watching, everybody. Have a great night.